Hi, Rowena.
Hi, ma'am.
Morning.
Morning din po.
Hintayin natin yung iba saglit.
Okay po.
You're grade 11 or grade 12?
Grade 11, ma'am. ABM po.
Let us start now, Rowena. Are you ready? Can you open your cam for a while? Rowena, are you still with me?
Nandito po ako.
Okay, may ginagawa ka ba?
Hindi po. Uminom lang po ako.
Can you open your cam muna? Ayan.
Medyo madali po.
Taga saan ka na nga ulit?
Taga-Kayukay po, pero nasa Manila po ako ngayon.
Andyan yung family mo?
Opo.
Vacation ka.
Opo.
Okay, magsimula na tayo.
Okay po.
We will discuss today about types of speech context. But let us first have a review. Ano natin yung picture natin. Last time, ano naalala mo sa mga na-discuss natin last time?
Yung mga regular control, social interaction. Yung regular control po, yun po yung mga leaders, kung paano sila maki-communicate or maki-interact sa mga workers. Social interaction yung mga ano po, like gatherings, birthday gatherings, invitation, and ano po. Yung motivation po, yun yung mga motivation po, like do your best, ganun po, or kung paano po sila maki-communicate with the good and motivative words po. Yung information po, yun po yung ano, communication ng dalawang tao, like workers to workers, managers to managers, and employee to employee po. And yung emotional expression po, yun po yung nararamdaman kung paano makipag-communicate po. Yun po.
Okay, thank you, Rowena. Very good. So, that's it. It's about the functions of communication. Tama lahat ng sinabi mo. We have 5. First, regulation and control. Sabi mo nga, may nagre-regulate. There is someone who is controlling the specific situation. That is regulation and control. Halimbawa sa organization, di ba? Yung mga employee, kailangan nilang sumunod sa guidelines. Yun yung utos ng nasa sa taas kasi there is someone who control or regulate the employees. Sa mga companies, ba, yung mga may job descriptions. Sa work groups, merong nag-encourage, may haharas ng members. That is all about regulation and control. Social interaction, yung sinabi mo kapag nag-extend ka ng greetings kapag sa mga newlywed o di kaya sa mga birthday greetings, that is social interaction. Kahit nga yung simpleng pakikipag-communicate, that is already social interaction. Motivation o yung mga inspirational and motivational words tulad ng sinabi mo. Kahit sa mga activities natin, di ba, yung mga commentaries, kapag may ipinagawa sa'yo, yung simple applause, simple praise, that is motivation. Information, there are 3 types of information. May downward moving from teacher to students, from principal to teachers, basta pababa. Next, upward moving communication from students to teachers, teachers to principals, principals to division. And lastly, horizontal moving. That is stable. Worker to worker, students to students, teachers to teachers, principals to principals. That is horizontal moving. Last function of communication is emotional expression. Here, kaya nga emotional, to express, to fulfill the social needs. O kapag kailangan sa mga mag-boyfriend, girlfriend, di ba? O kahit sa mga may simple problem lang, yung sister mo, nag-fail kunwari, kailangan niyang express yung emotion niya. Okay, here is Azita. Kapasok na siya. O nagko-connect? Okay. Welcome, Azita. Open mo yung cam mo. Pag hindi ka busy. Azita? Hi. Okay. Nakamute ikaw.
Hello po, ma'am.
Hello. Okay, we are having a review about what we had discussed last time, and we discussed the functions of communication. We already done with that. How about you? What have you remembered about purposes of communication? Azita? Rowena mentioned the 5 functions of communication. How about you? What do you remember about purposes of communication? Miss Azita Batala? Azita? Okay, baka nawalan ng signal. Okay, there are 4 purposes of communication. To inquire, to inform, to persuade, and to develop goodwill. Those are just a few of the purposes of communication. Tulad ng sinabi ko, kahit pumunta tayo sa tindahan, may purpose tayo. Kapag nakikipagtawaran tayo sa palengke, we also have purposes. Bakit tayo nakikipag-communicate? May nakita tayong bata, nagtanong tayo, we have purposes. Baka magtanong tayo ng information, ng daan, diba? Ng directions. So there are lots of purposes of communication. But we discussed the 4 of it. To inquire, yun yung mag-obtain tayo ng mga information. Number 2, to inform, to give knowledge. Parang itong ginagawa ko. Isa din to sa mga purposes ng social media to inform us, to enlighten us, right? Next is to persuade. Ayan, sa mga politics. Ito yon, kaya sila nagkakampanya to persuade people. And to develop goodwill. Ito sa churches natin, 'di ba? Para ma-motivate tayo sa school, para ma-develop natin yung mga proper and right conducts to maintain cordial and harmonious relationship between people. We also discuss 6 types of oral communication. Rowena, kindly name as much as you can kung anong naalala mo. 6 types of oral communication. Rowena, may naalala ka? 6 types of oral communication. Magbigay ako example, yung oral examination. Oral communication yon. That is one example of oral communication activities. Speech. Kahit wala dun sa mga na-discuss natin last time, mag-isip ka lang ng mga oral communication. Mga
Communicating with your friends, ma'am.
Okay, communication with your friends. Kapag group of friends, it could be a small group or team-based oral work, di ba? O di nagfo-fall na naman yun doon. Kapag isa lang kaibigan mo, that is one-on-one speaking. It could be friend to friend, student to student, student to teacher. That is one-on-one. We also have full class discussion. O kapag lahat kayo nag-attend, that is full class discussion. From teacher to student-led. In-class debates and deliberation. Kapag may debate sa school, kadalasan yan kapag may mga issues. Next is speeches and presentations. Kapag inutusan kayo or the teacher commanded you to have a speech, to present an action, that is already a kind of speeches and presentations. Those are the 6 types of oral communication. Again, one-on-one speaking, small group or team-based oral work, full class discussion, in-class debates and deliberation, speeches and presentation, and number 6, oral examinations. Those are 6 types of oral communication. There are also what we discuss, various kinds of oral text. Azita, andyan ka na ba? Pasensya na, nairirinig niyo yung mga aso. Azita? Okay. Do you still remember the various kinds of oral text?
Opo.
Okay. Kindly name some of what you've remembered.
Discussion, interview, commercial, and conversation po.
Okay, very good. There are lots of various kinds of oral text, diba? May advertisement. Yung sinabi mo, discussion, diba? May panel discussion, group discussion. Interview, pwedeng sa application sa job. Kahit yung interview mga sa crime suspect. Instruction. Kapag sa mga exam natin, mga quizzes natin, mayroong instruction. Kaya dapat sundin din natin yon. May naalala lang ako yung sa natin, sa quizzes natin. Meron akong instruction doon na write your answer in caps lock or capital letters. Ganon. Pero hindi nasunod. Pero daw pinagbigyan namin yung iba, pero next time, follow instruction. Ganon kahalaga yung instruction. Those are kinds of oral text. May advertisement, announcement, commercials, conversation. Yan kapag nag-uusap. Instruction, proposal, I should say, oral reports. So those are what we discussed last time. Move tayo sa discussion natin. Ano ko muna yung ating pictures yan, para mabasa. After going through this module, you are expected to identify the various types of speech contexts. We're going to discuss them today. Distinguishes types of speeches and speech styles. Now, give a situation in where you are communicating to yourself, others, and public. These are connected to our topic, types of speech context. Now, kindly give a situation, kahit simple word lang, where you are communicating within yourself. Rowena.
Communicating in front of my mirror, ma'am.
Okay, communicating in front of mirror. Tama, kapag kinakausap natin yung sarili natin, di ba? Yun, nag-under yun sa sarili. How about Azita? Yourself muna tayo. Azita? Kindly give a situation na kinakausap mo yung sarili mo. Hindi natin maiwasan yan, di ba? Kahit nasa salamin nga tayo, di ba? Kinakausap natin yung sarili natin. Baka may ginagawa. Okay, next. Others. Sa iba naman, Rowena. Nakikipag-communicate tayo sa iba.
Communicating with our friends or some unknown people.
Okay, very good. Socialization. Kapag nakikipag-usap tayo, interaction with other people. That is a situation wherein you are communicating with others. Next, public. Magbigay ka ng situation.
Talking to going to a fast foods, ma'am, and talking to the counter.
Yes, yung fan ang narinig ko. Ano yon?
Yung ma'am, communicating with the counter. Yung pupunta ka po sa isang fast food tapos makikicommunicate ka dun sa counter.
Okay. When you are communicating dun sa counter, kunwari nakipag-usap ka, kunwari magbabayad ka ng bill, ganun ba?
Opo.
Okay. Though nasa public siya, but that is a situation where you are communicating to others. Pag sinabi nating public, yun yung sa maraming tao. Halimbawa, sa TV, sa mga news, mga anchor, that is an example of public communication. Sa mga speech, kunwari, yung president, he is conducting a presidential speech. That is already public. Pag sinabing public, marami siyang mga viewers. At kukunti lang yung reaction. Hindi siya, there is no much feedback. Mamaya, madidiscuss natin yan. But nice try, Rowena. Okay, here. Alisin muna ulit natin yung picture natin. Effective communication takes place when there is successful transmission of information. Effective siya when there is a perfect and successful transmission of information. Kasi nga naman kung wala ring hindi siya effective. Hindi maganda yung communication kasi wala o pangit yung feedback. That is information from one person to another. There are various types of speech context. Basically, we can distinguish between these types as intrapersonal, interpersonal. Sa interpersonal, we have dyadic and small group. And lastly, public forms of communication. Dito na yon. Yung activity natin kanina, yung a situation of communicating within yourself, others, and public. Alin kaya yung yourself, others, and public dito sa tatlo? Intrapersonal, interpersonal, and public. Okay, sa public, syempre automatic na yon. Pero ano ba yung communication between yourself and others? Is that under intrapersonal or interpersonal? Okay, there are three types of speech context. Yung nabanggit kanina, intrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, and public communication. Those are three types of speech context. Take note of that. Kasi baka sabihin natin may types of communication. Iba naman yung types of speech context. Kasi yung types of communication, oral and di ba? And non-verbal, oral and written, diba? Yung sign language. Dito, types of speech context naman tong tatlo. What is intrapersonal communication? Kindly read. Azita, are you with us na?
Level of interpersonal communication. Level of communication where a person does self-talking. Characters. It is silent talking which every person is doing. Second, it is communication within oneself. Third, the sender and the receiver of the message is the same self. Third, there is no interruption of our feedback.
Okay, good. Now, this is already what we call intrapersonal. This is the activity we had a while ago. That is communicating within yourself. That is self-talking. Kapag nakikipag-usap ka sa harapan ng salamin, tulad ng sinabi ni Rowena, that is intrapersonal communication. May characteristic siya. Una, silent talking which every person is doing. Silent talking, kahit sa utak mo lang siya. Kahit hindi ka umiimik, tinatanong mo sarili mo, that is already intrapersonal communication. Tandaan nyo iba yung intrapersonal sa interpersonal. Pag intra, within yourself. Next characteristic, it is communication within oneself, sa sarili mo lang. Kaya nga self-talking siya. Next, the sender and the receiver of the message is the same. Self, sarili mo lang. Ikaw ang sender, ikaw din yung receiver. Kasi ang kinakausap mo, sarili mo lang. Next, there is no interruption or feedback. Wala kang marinig na feedback kasi ang feedback mo lang, sarili mo lang din. Diba? There is no interruption. Maliban na lang siguro kapag nananaginip ka, di ba? Pag nananaginip ka, that is intrapersonal communication. Tapos ginising ka, yon interruption yon. Pero pag kinakausap mo yung sarili mo, kasi kahit na may barriers, kahit na kinakausap ka, kung yung nasa utak mo ay focus ka, there is no interruption or feedback. That is intrapersonal communication. Maliban sa talking in front of the mirror, sabi ko nga kapag nag-iisip ka, when you are thinking, that is an example of intrapersonal communication. Kapag nagre-review, diba? Kapag remembering, that is an example. Diba? Inaalala mo yung mga past lessons. Diba? Yung naalala mo nung nadapa ka sa daan. Diba? Naalala mo nung nag-outing kayo with tropas. That is intrapersonal communication. Dreaming. Kahit nananaginip ka ng gising, nananaginip ka kapag natutulog, that is intrapersonal within yourself. Next, deciding. Yun. Example din yun ng intrapersonal communication. Ano kaya ang gusto ko? Diba? Kahit nasa isip mo lang, sabihin mo kung sa sarili mo lang, that is intrapersonal communication. Anong pipiliin ko? Kulay blue, kulay red. Diba? Magbabakasyon ba ako? Mag-i-stay lang ako sa bahay. Gagala ba ako o magpapasok sa klase ko? Deciding. Those are examples of intrapersonal communication. At bago ko makalimutan, kasi na-discuss namin to when I was in college na elaborate ito. Another example of intrapersonal communication is praying. So dati, siyempre nagtataka bakit intrapersonal? Kasi 'di ba kasi kapag intrapersonal within yourself, you are communicating naman you are communicating to God. Bakit intrapersonal siya? Kasi ang feedback mo lang diyan ay yung sarili mo. 'Di ba sabi nga kung magpe-pray ka, nasa Diyos ang awa, nasa tao ang gawa. Sino ang gagawa? Ikaw sarili mo, 'di ba? That is your feedback. At ang feedback na 'yon, ikaw rin as the sender. Ikaw ang gagawa, 'di ba? So mag-a-under siya sa intrapersonal communication. Take note of that, baka lumabas yan sa quiz natin. Sa Wednesday, yun, sasabihin ko na Wednesday, we will have a quiz. Ayan, these are the examples. Thinking, remembering, dreaming, and deciding. Next, interpersonal communication. Rowena, kindly read.
Involves two or more person engaging in the communication process characteristic. It is interactive and face-to-face communication. It is done between sender and receiver. It is two-ways communication between two or more people. It is quick exchange of information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it involves two or more. Kapag nasa counter ka, nakikipag-usap tayo, di ba? This is interpersonal communication because there is the involvement of group two or more or a group of people engaging in the communication process. And take note, when we say interpersonal communication, there is always a feedback. Ayan, kinakausap ko kayo, may feedback, di ba? That is interpersonal communication. Characteristics number 1, it is interactive. Interactive kasi nga may feedback. And face-to-face communication. Though pwede rin naman sa telephone, that is also interpersonal communication. Kapag katawagan mo, as long as merong feedback. Okay? As long as merong two or more person na nag-i-engage sa communication process. Kahit sa letter, di ba? Kapag nagsisendan ng letter, interpersonal communication pa rin yun. Kasi, there is a feedback. Through letter man, through message man, through email man, there is a feedback. This is done between sender and receiver. May sender, may receiver. Unlike sa intrapersonal na iisa lang ang sender and receiver. Self lang. It is two-way communication between two or more people. Ayan. Ito, two-way communication. And lastly, it is a quick exchange of information. Exchanging of information. Example, there are kinds of interpersonal communication. The dyad or dyadic na tinatawag and a small group. Okay. What do we mean by dyad? Azita?
Diag, a kind of the interpersonal communication between two people and involves an alternate speaker and listener, both exchanging ideas alternately in the
Alternately,
alternately and pleasant manner. Dyad communication may be characteristic and either as simple where two people engage in aimless talks or intimate talk between close friends or as formal act like interview.
okay.
Others
This is,
characteristics
okay, continue.
Others characteristics of dyad, there are two persons involved in communication. The source may became the receiver may become the source. It is a dynamic communication process, and feedbacks are shared between the source and the receiver.
Okay, thank you, Azita. When we say dyad, this is under interpersonal communication. Take note, when we say dyad, that is only between two people. Dalawa lang. Hindi pwedeng maging tatlo, apat, lima, group. Dalawa lang. It just the communication between two people. And alternate speaker and a listener. One-on-one lang siya. They are both exchanging ideas alternately in a pleasant manner. It could be characterized either as simple, where two people engage in aimless talk, or yung mga chismis, ayan, pag dalawa lang kayo, that is dyad. Kapag aimless, kahit aimless talks man lang yan. Intimate talk between close friends, o nagkukumustahan kayo. Yan, pag dalawa lang kayo ng friend mo, that is dyad. Or a formal act like an interview. Yan, may one-on-one interview, di ba? Sa mga job application, bago ka ma-hire. mayroong interview. Pag dalawa lang kayo with the interviewer and the interviewee, that is dyad. Kapag nag-tutor kayo between tutor and a tutee, that is dyad. There are characteristics of dyad para matawag siyang dyad or dyadic. There are two persons involved in communication. Dalawa lang. The source may become the receiver. Kung yung source, yung sender, pwede rin maging receiver kasi exchanging of ideas. Diba? Halimbawa, ako tsaka si Azita, nag-uusap kami, ako yung source. Pag siya nang nagsalita, siya na yung source. Diba? Nagkakapalitan lang kami. That is dyad. Next, the receiver may become the source. O yun lang, vice versa lang sila. It is dynamic communication process because there is a feedback. And lastly, feedbacks are shared between the source and the receiver. Kayo lang dalawa. So that is dyad. Yung mga one-on-one lang. Kapag may tawag sa telephone, that is dyad kasi dalawa lang kayo. Ba? That is dyad. A kind of interpersonal communication. And second one is small group. Ayan, pag sinabing small group, and okay, kindly read, Rowena.
An effective communicator is a person who knows how to communicate interpersonally in any oral interchange. Being a part of a group indicates a person's active life. The main purpose of group interaction is mainly for sharing of information, finding facts, and decision making. Example, panel discussion, meeting, roundtable discussion, participatory format,
Participatory.
face-to-face form,
Participatory.
participatory format, face-to-face format.
Okay, thank you, Rowena. Nice. When we say a small group, it is composed of a small group of people, okay? Pero hindi siya yung hundreds, thousands of people kasi magiging public na siya. Diba? Sabi ko nga sa TV, marami na nakikinig, di ba? So, ibig sabihin, hindi na siya a small group. Pag small group lang siya, bilang lang 3 and more na hindi naman mag-exit sa group, sa large group of people. Okay. An effective communicator is a person who knows how to communicate interpersonally in any oral interchange. Kasi nga sabi nga, being a part of a group indicates a person's active life. 'Di ba? Makikita yung active life ng isang tao kapag siya nagsasalita in a small group. Kapag nakita natin pagsanay na siya, kapag meron siyang experiences in communicating. Diba? The main purpose of group interaction is mainly for sharing information. Kadalasan nito, di ba? Tulad ng mga example dyan, panel discussion, more on information lang. Meeting, roundtable discussion, participatory format, and even face-to-face format. It is about sharing of information, finding facts, and decision making. Ayan, sa meeting, may decision making dyan. Roundtable discussion. Now, meron naman din pagkakaiba yung limang yan kasi halos synonyms sila with each other. Pero meron silang pagkakaiba. Lahat ng yan under a small group. Pero yung small group and dyad, under siya ng interpersonal communication. Okay, discuss natin yung panel discussion. Azita.
Panel discussion, it involves 3 to 6 participants carrying on the conversation on a timely and relevant topic before an audience. The following are suggestions for a good panel discussion. First, talk to each other for the audience. Second, avoid discussion between leader and discussant only. Third, be alert, breaking silence. Fourth, avoid monopolizing discussion. Fifth, address each other by name. Second, and sixth, make sure that conversation is spontaneous.
Spontaneous.
And hot memorize. proper facial expression and should be shown.
Shown.
Do not do not give long speech. And last, state clearly the topic you are discussing about.
Okay, very good. Now, under a small group, una panel discussion. When we say panel discussion, composed of 3 to 6 participants only. Yan yung characteristic ng panel discussion. Carrying a conversation on a timely and relevant topic before an audience. The following are suggestions. Okay, first, talk to each other for the audience. Dapat lahat sila kasama. Lahat sila ina-address mo. That is talk to each other for the audience. Kapag may panel discussion, hindi pwedeng isa lang kinakausap mo. Dapat lahat sila. Halimbawa tayo dito, hindi lang si Azita tinatanong ko, hindi lang si Rowena, kundi lahat kayo. Next, avoid discussing between leader and discussant only. Avoid that na na isa lang. Dapat communication din. Kayo ding dalawa pwede rin makipag-communicate kapag may activity na sinabi na kayong dalawa dapat in a group of 2 dapat gawin nyo ang ganitong activity. Yan, that is panel discussion. Next, be alert, breaking silence. Ito yung iniiwasan natin na maraming dead air. Halimbawa, ito, be alert, breaking silence. Nakalimutan ko, mananahimik ako ng matagal, 3 to 5 minutes, ay wala na, di ba? Patay na yung discussion nyo. Dapat be alert. Always break the silence. Dapat tuloy-tuloy. Spontaneous. Di ba? Next, avoid monopolizing discussion. Yan, yung monotone na pagsasalita. Yung pare-pareho, nakakaantok. Dapat maging lively. Kasi kahit na ikaw na listener, kapag monotone, kapag monophone ang discussion, wala na. Ayaw mo nang makinig, susunod di ka na a-attend. Next, address each other by name. Bakit this meeting will end 10 minutes? Okay, bilisan na natin. Bakit ito nag-appear? Address each other by name. Okay, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin, you with the yellow in dress, you with the blue in t-shirt. Dapat hindi ganon. Banggitin ang pangalan. Make sure that conversation is spontaneous and not memorized. Okay, tuloy-tuloy, pero hindi yung memorized. Yung scripted, wag ganon. Dapat kung ano yung nasa isip mo, ano yung nasa puso mo, yun. Proper facial expression should be shown. Pag nagulat ka, dapat nagulat ka. Kapag masaya ka, dapat masaya yung facial expression mo. Pag galit ka, tapos mukha mo nakangiti, hindi matatakot ang mga discussant. Next, do not give long speech. Wag yung puro ikaw na napakahaba. Aantukin sila. Magiging monopolized na yung discussion. Next, state clearly the topic you are discussing about. Sabihin mo mismo kung ano yung topic mo. Hindi yung daming paligoy-ligoy. Next one is meeting. It is a communication format where superiors and subordinates hold an authoritative relationship between the organization or offices. Yan. Itong communication format na merong superior, may subordinates. May nag-lead ng meeting. Okay, that is meeting. Actually, kahit ilan naman dito, basta wag lang 3 or more. Yan, pag may meeting. Kunwari, meeting ng mga students, meeting ng teacher-students, meeting ng teacher-to-teacher. Dapat merong nag-lead sa kanila, merong superior. Para alam yung flow ng meeting. Next, roundtable discussion. From the word itself, roundtable, nasa roundtable kayo dapat. It is a small group discussion where communicators sit around a circular table. Circular hindi dapat square, hindi dapat rectangle, round, para makita nyo lahat ng facial expression nyo. The circle represents free expression from different participants. Okay, they are free to express themselves. And the circular table enhances harmony in a smooth group discussion para madali lang magturo, madali lang makita kung sino ang alert. Next is participatory format. It is a small group discussion format where all present members exchange ideas about an important issue or problem. Lahat ng participant, lahat ng naka-attend dito sa participatory format, dapat lahat nag-i-interact, nag-i-exchanging of ideas about a certain important issue or a problem. That is participatory format. Take note of that. Review nyo kasi Wednesday we will have a quiz. Next, face-to-face format. It is a form of communication where participants discuss face-to-face against each other. O yan, dapat may mukhaan. The participant and the discussant clearly interact during the discussion. Pag narinig nyo na face-to-face against each other, that is face-to-face format. Last type of speech context, okay, those are under Isimul Grupa. We have panel discussion, meeting, round table, and participatory and face-to-face format. We have 5 there. And next, number three type of speech context is public communication. Kindly read, Rowena.
One person who is the speaker is engaged in transmitting message to the audience. These include activities like seminar, workshop, and symposium. There is limited feedback in this level, since this is done only by the speaker who does all the talking. Characteristic: only a single person in the source of information that is received by a big number of audience. This is not mutual feedback between the source and the receiver. Communication is focused only on the speaker.
Okay, very good. When we say public communication, kaya nga sabi ko kanina, kapag kinakausap mo yung nasa counter, kahit na nasa public siya, that is not public communication. As long as na kayo lang dalawa. Dapat ang public communication, dapat marami kang audience, and ikaw lang, sa'yo lang nakafocus kasi ikaw lang ang nagsasalita. There is no feedback, or kung may feedback, hindi na maririnig ng speaker. One person who is the speaker. Ay, gising na ang baby ko. Bejang! Si Asmon. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Iyak na siya. Naririnig niya?
Medyo, ma'am.
Okay. One person who is the speaker is engaged in transmitting messages to the audience. Mamamatay na rin to after 4 minutes. Kapag nagre-record siguro, kaya limited ang time pala kapag Zoom. Okay, this includes activities like seminars, workshops, and symposiums. Kaya seminars, workshops, and symposiums kasi nakafocus lang siya, di ba, sa speaker kapag nagse-seminar. Kapag may feedback man, bitin, di ba? Nakafocus lang lagi siya sa speaker. Kahit sa mga speech, okay, public communication yon. There is limited feedback in this level since this is done only by a speaker who does all the talking. Yung sinabi ko. There are characteristics. First, only a single person is the source of information that is received by a big number of audience. Sa, halimbawa rin ito sa church, kapag may nagtuturo, sa kanya lang nakafocus, siya lang ang source of information. Hindi ka pwedeng sumabat kasi that is public communication. Next is there is no mutual feedback between the source and the receiver. Kapag sa news, kapag nanonood tayo, di ba? May feedback ka nga, naririnig ba ng source natin, di ba? Hindi. There is no mutual feedback. Lastly, communication is focused only on the speaker kasi nga he or she does all the talking. Okay, that is public communication. So those are the 3 types of speech context. Okay, we will have a quiz on Wednesday. That is 20 items. Be prepared. So that is easy lang naman. Basta nakinig, basta nag-aral lang mabuti, madali lang. Okay. To sum it up, Who wants to who wants to give the summary? Azita or Rowena?
Yung ano lang, ma'am, number 1 lang, intrapersonal communication
Okay,
lang,
sige.
ma'am. Intrapersonal communication, yun yung ano, self-talking, ma'am. Nakikipag-usap ka lang sa sarili mo, like, example po is talking to the mirror, communicating with yourself, saying what you want to say to yourself, ma'am. Dreaming, yung nagdi-dream ka, ma'am.
Okay.
Tapos, yung pabulong, ma'am, yung binubulong mo yung sa sarili mo, yung gusto mong sabihin. Yung thinking, ma'am,
Okay.
remembering and studying, ma'am.
Okay, very good, Rowena. Exactly. Yun na yun. So, hindi ko na kailangan elaborate kasi nasabi mo na lahat. That is intrapersonal, self-talking. Azita, how about you? Interpersonal communication. Can you sum it up? Azita? Okay, less than a minute. Okay, ako na lang magdi-discuss ha. Interpersonal communication, we have two, dyad and small group. Kapag dalawa lang kayo nakikipag-communicate, that is under dyad or dyadic. Small group, we have 4, panel discussion composed of 3 to 6 participants. Meeting, ayan, merong authority. Round table discussion, that is in the round table na kayo nag-uusap, lahat nagdi-discuss. Participatory format, lahat ng present na naka-attend, sila lahat nakikipag-participate. And face-to-face format, mukhaan. And last type of speech context is public communication, wherein focus lang siya sa source or center. So that's all for today. Do you have any question?
Ma'am, meron pa po ba tayong